Okay, so we should be live. See if anyone turns up. Hope you can find me. Let's see. Will I be easy to see? Yeah, it should be. Please do say hello. Mark, good evening. I'm glad somebody turned up. It's a while since I've done one of these, or we've done one of these, so yeah, we'll have to remind ourselves how to do it. Looks like it's just you and me, Mark, for this evening. So clearly you want to know about tranquility. Other people do too. Okay, somebody else turned up, have they? Okay, Mark, what would you like to know then? Hi, Natalie. Good evening. Hope you're doing okay. Alex, glad you can make it. Please do say hello, everyone, so I know you're here. Dave, good evening. Newly promoted to administrator. Let's see if a few more people turn up. We've got out of the regularity of doing these. So, and I'd forgotten that I was due to do a Facebook Live on the 19th of September, so we didn't advertise it early enough, really. Bodil, good evening. Tom, nice you could join us. Hope all is well with you. Let's see. Oh, we've gone. This is confusing. Just people 1 or 2 minutes more. Let's see if they join us. It's interesting today watching the funeral of the Queen. It's not what we're going to talk about this evening, but it was watching it was like it did remind me of what makes Britain unique as a country. I mean, all countries are unique, but our own particular form of uniqueness. And it was like watching something out of Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something. It was very spectacular. It did remind me of the Buddha's day, what we read in the Pali Canon about his relationship with the rulers and the royalty and the government officials in his time, and the various principalities that he operated in, and he was very respectful to them all. He absolutely respected their authority and their power, and he treated them as royalty. Even though he would have completely seen through the magic trick, of course, and at times I'm amazed anyone can actually believe that that's what they are. But anyway, nonetheless, Jim from Canada, good, glad you could make it. Hi, Sarah. Yet he nonetheless treated them as kings and queens and princes and so forth, and held them in respect and treated them respectfully, and as a result he and his order were able to move freely around these principalities and do what they did. So I was quite struck by that. Anyway, right, what are we talking about this evening? Boarding plane going to Edinburgh, is it, Sarah? Obviously you have to turn that off when you go on the plane. You have to put it on airplane mode on your telephone. Telephone, is that what we call them still? Your mobile. So anyway, I thought it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I think I've talked recently about contentment, but I also wanted to talk about tranquility and creating a base of tranquility when we meditate. And I think it's really, really important. And I think it's something that I haven't perhaps given enough space to, because I've always been emphasizing the fact that to practice Vipassana, all you have to be is free from hindrances. So you have to not be preoccupied, and you turn your attention to noting what's arising in your experience, and as a consequence of that, you will start to see transience, and the whole process of developing these insight knowledges will take place. And I think I've undercooked slightly the role of tranquility, in that to have tranquility as a base for then exploring experience and practicing Vipassana meditation is really, really important. I did the first workshop that we'd done in an awfully long time, in like 2.5 years, the other Saturday, and it was good. It was pretty good. But I realised that essentially, when people come on a mindfulness workshop, essentially what they want is tranquility. Most people don't really understand what mindfulness is, and they don't really understand what it is they want, other than that they want not to be experiencing worries, and they want relief from worries and so forth. And so that made me think, well, what I've got to do is reimagine the workshop and redo the workshop and give people what they want, essentially. So focus more on the development of the tranquility aspect. And so then that made me start thinking about, well, what is tranquility? How is it developed? What gets in the way? What it isn't? And I realised there's an awful lot you can say about paradox. It's very paradoxical, developing tranquility, and also the role of narrative, how we talk to ourselves. The way we talk to ourselves is critical in terms of developing tranquility. So I thought that all those aspects would be really useful to look at. Does that sound like a good idea? Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? Please do take part and make observations and ask questions as we go along. Otherwise, this is going to be an hour-long monologue, which will be extraordinarily boring for me, and perhaps for you too. So, where to begin? So, what is tranquility? How would you describe tranquility? What qualities does it have? What aspects does it have? I think that's a very good thing to reflect upon, because it is quite a tricky thing, developing tranquility. Is tranquility something that is developed? What is tranquility? I've got my copy of Dhamma. And very useful book, this. So we have, in any what's called a beautiful state of mind. Okay, we've got a couple of Jim. Peace of mind, absence of hindrances, good. Acceptance of the good and bad that is taking place. Okay, that's evenness of mind. That's Tattramata, neutrality of mind. And Natalie, but you're absolutely right, absence of hindrances. And this is the paradoxical thing that we need to bring out about tranquility. What it is and what it isn't. And how we go about developing a deep state of tranquility is based on understanding the paradox. Natalie, one can feel it bodily as well as mentally, a pervading sense of calm and ease. Okay, so if you imagine like a pool of water, if you're throwing things into it or you're splashing around in the water, then it's not going to be tranquil. It's going to be choppy and rough. If we all get out of the swimming pool and we leave it alone, then all the waves subside and it becomes quiet and still on the surface. So it's an absence of disturbance, rather than being something that is created. Rather, it's an absence. So the trick with tranquility is about, it's not trying to make tranquility happen so much as the removal of, the subtraction of the things that create disturbance. I hope that makes sense. Alex, for me it's a sort of stopping, the mind stops moving out to things, it's peaceful still. Okay, so we're getting the idea there. So in Abhidhamma, it describes the twofold tranquility, that's tranquility of mental factors and tranquility of consciousness, as having the characteristic of quietening down of disturbances. Its function is to crush such disturbances. It's manifested as peacefulness and coolness. Its proximate cause is the mental body. Oh, well, we don't need to worry about that. It should be regarded as opposed to such defilements as restlessness and worry, which create distress. Okay, so tranquility is one of a number of mental factors that arise in what we call sabana citta, which is a beautiful state of mind, sabana citta. So a beautiful state of mind has characteristics such as faith, and hopefully we'll talk about faith and how and its importance in developing a tranquil state of mind. Mindfulness itself, a positive sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing, non-greed, non-hatred, neutrality of mind, which is this evenness with regard to the good and the bad and treating them in the same way. Tranquility, but also things like lightness of mind, malleability, wieldiness of mind, proficiency of mind, that's the healthiness of the mind, rectitude, so a sense of uprightness, ethical uprightness of the mind, not wishing to do wrong. And so in a mind that has successfully developed tranquility, you'll have all these other factors that come with it. So it's a complete, what we call a beautiful state of mind. Free, all hindrances are temporarily abandoned. There's no desire to go into worries and so forth, because that would be disturbing to the mind. And we don't want the mind to be disturbed. Okay. But how do we do it? And this is where all the paradox starts to come up. What happens? Here's a question for you. What happens if you try to get tranquil, based on everything I've just said? What do you think? What do you think would happen if you try to get tranquil? How do we believe that we get tranquil? So we have mindfulness of breathing, for instance, and the belief, generally speaking, is, Jim, the trying is the problem. But how do we get tranquility going then if we're not going to try? Bear in mind some of these other mental factors that I talked about as being part of a beautiful state of mind. Tranquility is one of them, but faith is one of them too. Mindfulness is one of them. So, for instance, generally speaking, what we say is watch the breath to the exclusion of everything else. If you want to get tranquil, watch the breath to the exclusion of everything else. So here's the first thing. You can't get tranquil by trying to get tranquil. It's impossible, because as Jim quite rightly points out, the very attempt to get tranquil is itself disturbing, disturbs the mind. So, don't try to get tranquil when you sit down to meditate. Paradoxical, but it's true. What we do instead is watch the breath. So what we're doing instead of trying to get tranquil is we're developing mindfulness through observing the breathing process. Right? The mistake people make is that they believe that it's through watching the breath that we get tranquil. It isn't. What is it that stops tranquility from being there is disturbance. So any attempt to get tranquil is going to have the opposite effect. And we know another paradox is that the more you want something, the more aware of its opposite you become. So if you're trying to get tranquil, if you are craving tranquility, or even if you're just wanting to be tranquil, if you just have an idea that I want to be tranquil, then you perceive its opposite. You perceive non-tranquility. So what we want to do is take our mind off of trying to be tranquil. Just don't. You have it as an overarching aspiration, but you just forget it. You just do something else. Because the more aware you become of non-tranquility when you want tranquility, the more you set up resistance. It's resistance which is the issue, not watching the breathing process. Watching the breathing process doesn't get you tranquil. What gets you tranquil is the absence of resistance. Wherever there's resistance, there cannot be tranquility. So what we're doing when we're watching the breath is we're taking our mind off trying to be tranquil. And we're just watching the breath. The mistake people make is that they become too obsessed with the breath and they try to exclude anything else from arising by looking at the breath. So they believe that by being exclusive on the breath, I will prevent other things from occurring and I will get tranquil. But what that does is it means that you're putting in more volitions, more actions, because you're looking at the breath as trying to through the act of looking at the breath, I will get something. I will be rewarded through looking at the breath by becoming tranquil. Tranquility will be my reward. And so we attack the breath, we reduce the area of focus under the belief that by reducing the area of focus and attacking the breath with our attention, we will get tranquility. And it just doesn't work. One of two things will happen. You'll fall asleep or you'll get an absolute crushing headache. So what tends to happen is we reduce the area of focus and we put in repeated volitions, believing that by oh, come on, come back, watch, and we're not realizing that we're actually building up mental energy and we're not, which isn't being released. So that's why we get caught in this trap, this sense of being the body becoming like this tiny little box that we're trapped in. And there's nothing spacious about it. There's nothing easeful about it. A properly concentrated and tranquil mind is actually incredibly expansive. There is a sense of infinite consciousness. It's not something which is trapped in a little space. Okay. I hope this is making sense for you. So it's paradoxical. You have to understand that it's not through watching the breath that you get tranquil. It's the absence of resistance. Okay. So then we have to adopt a different attitude towards watching the breath. Watching the breath has to be this very light, very kindly, unconcerned observation of the breath. We have a receptive state of mind which allows each breath to come up freely, free of ambition, free of a sense of giving to get. So it is a loving observation of the breathing process, but with this lovely, light, spacious mindset. And of course that brings up a new problem, which is the mind likes to think. And this brings us to another paradox. The belief is, if I'm thinking, I won't get tranquil. And that's another lie that we tell ourselves. I know this to be true. I know that happens to be true because I've experienced it myself. That I have been attending to the breath, and then the mind has become interested in something. I can't even remember what it was. Probably football, knowing me. And I've been thinking about this other thing, whatever it is, and I've got tranquil. Why? Isn't it supposed to be that if I'm thinking about other things, I can't get tranquil? How is it then that I've been thinking about other things and I've got tranquil? So, and similar for any object of awareness, for example, anxiety or fearful thought. Joe, glad you could join us in Phoenix. So my question is, not necessarily like, well, it could be really anything you could be thinking about, but let's just say it's just a random set of thoughts, say some planning, and yet the mind has got tranquil. Why has it got tranquil, Mark? Because not craving tranquility. Almost. What is your relation to thinking when you meditate? If you have the belief that if I'm thinking, I won't get tranquility, I won't get tranquil, and thinking arises, David, spot on. There is no resistance to the thinking. Now, there was sufficient mindfulness to know that thinking was going on. So there wasn't a total absence of mindfulness, but there was no sense in which the thinking shouldn't be there. I've gone wrong. I've gone wrong if thinking is there. I've gone wrong because I won't succeed in my ambition to get tranquil. Sarah, not trying to get rid of it. Exactly. Not trying to get rid of it. The nature of all thoughts, this is a Tibetan thing that they talk about. The nature of all thoughts is to self-liberate. Thoughts arise and pass away. It's not a problem when you become aware that there's thinking, you note that there's thinking, but if you know that you haven't gone wrong, that the tranquility will still emerge, it will still develop over the course. It's not going to be immediate. This is another one of the problems. We're so impatient. It will emerge over the course of the period of meditation if there's no resistance, not if there's no thinking. So the breath is used as a suitable object because it's neutral, it's not overly stimulating, but you can also get deeply tranquil through developing the recollection of the Buddha, the recollection of the Dhamma, recollection of the Sangha. You can get tranquil through the development of metta, through the development of compassion meditation. You can get tranquil through the generation of gratitude and thinking about all things you can be grateful for. You can get tranquil through just thinking about what you like about this moment. So it's not thinking is not going to prevent you from getting calm and tranquil. Thinking in and of itself is not creating waves of mental energy in your mind. It's the resistance. And the resistance comes about because you've got ambition for tranquility. And that's going back to the great paradox. When you've got ambition for tranquility, you are not tranquil. You are not where you want to be. Where you want to be is over there and you're over here, and so now you've got to work like stink to try to get over there. And that's not how it works. Tranquility is like a flower emerging from a seed into a fully formed flower, and it just sort of arises in your core. It just arises in your being. So you attend lightly to the breathing process as your principal object. You don't mind that there's thinking, and you might even choose to use thinking deliberately. But here's the key. It's not looking for results. It's just truly absorbing yourself in thinking about the Buddha, in thinking about the Dhamma, in thinking about the Sangha, or thinking about your friends and how much you like them, or thinking about reasons to be grateful, or just thinking about what you like about unfolding experience. All of which, nowhere in any of that is there any resistance. The mind can remain light and open, and there is the understanding that the tranquility will develop over the course of the meditation. Not immediately, but it will. All those qualities I talked about of a beautiful state of mind, Sobhana Chitta, the faith, the mindfulness, the absence of hatred, the absence of greed, the neutrality of mind, the tranquility, the peacefulness, the lightness, the wieldiness of the mind, all that beautiful state of mind grows in the course of the meditation, because each time you attend to whatever's going on and you bring yourself back to the main focus each time, you are developing that focus. What's developing over time is a sense of confidence in your existence at that time. So there is a natural faith that emerges, a natural confidence, a natural sense of restfulness and contentment, peacefulness and lightness of mind at that time, and it develops through the meditation. And what happens is that because that becomes so well established, there is a disinclination to go outward. There is a disinclination to go outward into thinking. There's a disinclination to go out through the physical senses. And so the mind begins to absorb and deepen its sense of the rightness of the moment, and it's all factors in the fact that there is no resistance. I think one of the major issues that stops people from getting tranquil in meditation is doubt. I think doubt is self-doubt, doubt in one's own abilities, doubt in the nature of existence. Because out of that uncertainty then comes the sense that there is something wrong, that there is something wrong with life as it is now. And that's what fuels resistance and fuels us going into hindrances. So I think one of the most important things to develop in order to be able to get properly tranquil is faith. Faith and confidence in existence. Faith and confidence in one's own abilities. Faith and confidence that life is unfolding as it should. Right here, right now, everything is correct. Everything, our starting position is that everything is right as it is. What do we think about that? So that was an extraordinarily long... I think that sentence was about 10 minutes long. Natalie says there is interest and a readiness to explore all that's going on. Absolutely. That interest and that readiness to explore comes from confidence. Confidence that you can let life take care of itself. You can let life unfold as it wants to. What is it that enables us to have that outlook when we sit down to meditate? Because think about it, all the hindrances are all about trying to take control in one way, shape or form. What is it that is going to allow us to set life aside? Set control of life to one side. Natalie, even though there have been some quite difficult challenges recently, nevertheless I felt it's been okay to let them unfold. What is it that allows us to let things unfold? If we think about it in terms of the Buddha's teaching, what are the things? Because if we get that, if we establish the rightness of the moment and that everything is fine, we can let life be what it is, exactly what it is, let it unfold. Joseph, Joe, faith in the Dhamma produces confidence in the meditation practice. Okay, so how do we develop that faith in the Dhamma? What are the... Because it's not... The Dhamma isn't an abstract thing. It's not something we just think about. It's something that we do. Mark, interesting that you mentioned wanting to change focus of workshops from mindfulness to tranquility. Well, I didn't quite say that. When in fact the way of getting tranquility is mindfulness. Well, this is the beautiful thing. This is the... You don't get tranquility by trying to get tranquility. But look at these different other factors that are present in a beautiful state of mind. Faith. So if you develop the meditation on the Buddha, that will produce inner confidence, which allows you to just rest content in the moment without resistance, observing the breathing. A confident mind is really solid. There's a solidity and a strength in a beautiful state of mind. I think in one of the descriptions it talks about crushing the defilements, and it's like this solid sense of solidity. Because I'm a neurotic type. That's part of my conditioning. So for me to experience a very solid state of mind, what I call a solid state of mind, is sort of pretty unusual, because in comparison to historically my mind states, it feels so solid, and I realise actually how flimsy and fragile and neurotic, generally speaking, my mind states have been. Oh god, we've got lots of interesting things people are saying. So if you can, instead of trying to get tranquil, you mindfully note what's actually taking place in your experience. That will help develop tranquility. One-pointedness of mind is another element in a beautiful state of mind. So you look carefully and observe very, very carefully the breathing process, not in a giving to get kind of way, but you take real interest in the minutiae of the subtle movements of the abdomen and the diaphragm and the muscles around that move around due to the breathing process. These are all different ways of developing that beautiful state of mind, but the principle is that it's all based on this solid sense that everything's fine. Everything is fine. Alex, stopping trying to make progress to get it right. Excellent point. if you're trying to get it right, it means that you're assuming that where you are right now is wrong, in which case that will prompt resistance, and it's the resistance that prevents the tranquility and the beautiful state of mind from developing. See, if I'm trying to get it right, that indicates a lack of confidence in unfolding reality. So if you find yourself telling yourself, I've got to get this right, what do you do? Interesting question. What do you do with that? Natalie, I do think it's confidence that these are resultants. Karma is something I can really trust. Yes, over time it becomes so obvious. If you practice mindfulness, it becomes so obvious that you are experiencing the results of your own actions, and that your perception of the world is the result of your own actions in body, speech, and mind. So the way that you narrate your reality will change reality as you perceive it, because it will change the kinds of perceptions that arise. So you can sit down in a meditation and you can be going, oh, I really want to get the meditation going, and you can see that's creating, that in itself is creating resistance. I really want to get this going. I really got to work hard with this. I really want to make... In that moment, you can change the narrative to, oh, it's great to have the opportunity to sit down and meditate. It's great that I've come across this wonderful teaching. It's great that the universe allows us to sit and develop tranquility. I'm really looking forward to this next period of meditation. I'm really glad I chose to sit. Look at the difference. What do you think is the immediate result of that kind of narration of your experience? And if you can actually get to the point where there can be external disturbances, such as, I don't know, workmen outside, and you can say, I'm really, really glad the workmen are there doing that job. Saves me doing it. And I really don't mind these sounds coming in. Come on, I'm sure they're transient. Let's have a look. And you're saying yes to life, and you're aligning with life. You're not at odds with life. You're aligning with it. It's your choice. You don't have to. You can keep going with the non-aligning, hateful, irritable, everything is wrong approach, but it just corrodes your confidence. It makes for doubting in life, doubting in your own abilities. Dave, letting go of the movement to control. So here we have another beautiful paradox. You can only let go of the movement to control if you accept the arising of the movement to control. So you have to acknowledge the movement to control, and you have to accept that yes, indeed, this is the movement to control. Because the temptation is to believe in that moment, oh, this is the movement to control, I've gone wrong. No, you haven't. You've only gone wrong if you... I don't even want to say that. If there is resistance to what you've discovered. So if there is complete acknowledgement that, this is movement to control, and you see that that's what it is, and then, crucially, there is not then the attempt to control that. But there is just, because the tendency would be to say, well, now I have to control that. I have to control the movement to control with control. I have to control the movement to control with the movement to control, because that's the habit, that's the tendency. But what you have to do instead is acknowledge the movement to control, and here's another paradox, not to attempt to resolve that movement to control, but to see that the movement to control self-liberates if you just look at it, because that's its nature. And in practice, I think it's actually easier in practice than it is to think about. So that's where the mindfulness is so important. That's where the willingness to just mindfully note what's taking place, free of the ambition to be tranquil. And if you and it's so the letting go of the movement to control is not attempting to solve the problem of control. It's so paradoxical, but it works. And the reason that we want to control is a lack of faith, a lack of confidence in the process. Impatience is another aspect. We're impatient for the arising of tranquility. God, I've been doing this 5 minutes already. Where's the tranquility? Impatience and tranquility can't coexist. So the way out of the conundrum is to recognize the impatience. Recognize the impatience and wait, and be willing to experience discomfort. That's another key area. The willingness to experience discomfort will not prevent the arising of tranquility. What will prevent the arising of tranquility is resistance to discomfort. That gets so many people. They cannot possibly believe that you can experience discomfort, either physical discomfort or mental discomfort, and still tranquility will arise. But remember, the principle around which all of this turns is it's resistance that prevents tranquility from arising, not anything else. Not the sound of a pneumatic drill going off outside. That won't stop you getting tranquil. If you invite that noise in, if you allow that noise, if you take proper account of that noise, you experience it and go, yep, that's a noise, and there isn't any resistance, that noise can carry on, and the mind will be perfectly at peace with that noise carrying on, even though it's maybe an uncomfortable experience. It ceases to feel like that because it's the resistance that prevents the tranquility arising. Yeah. And the resistance comes in the form of wanting to control, wanting to justify why things are wrong. All of that. That's what needs to be let go of. Joe, trusting that life... Oh, sorry, I missed Sue's. Is there an element of fear there too? Yes, very good point, Sue. The fear... What is the fear coming from? Why would fear arise with regard to getting tranquil in meditation? What would that indicate? Because if we're just resting in the moment, Joe, you make the point, trusting that life is perfect as it is. Yes. So why would, if we're accepting that life is perfect as it is, that there is nowhere to get to, because after all, I mean, that's another issue. We want to get to the point where, with the tranquility, where we're calm enough that we can see things arising and passing away really easily. That's what we want. We're not, for purposes of Vipassana, we're not just getting ever more deeply into concentrated states. We want to reach a point where we're still aware of the senses, we're calm, and that allows us to note that things are arising and passing away and see them very clearly. So there is nowhere... So it is an exploration of unfolding experience, so there is nowhere to get to. So why would fear arise? Natalie, it's so different from what we've always done. So we're going into something unknown. Okay, so the implication there is that, generally speaking, we want to accomplish something we already know about. So we believe we already know what it is that we want, and that through this process we will obtain it, which has all kinds of difficulties with it, because one, the whole point of doing the meditation is that we don't know the true nature of reality, so how we can project forward a goal, it's impossible, isn't it? So we must be projecting forward a creation, a mental creation that we're pushing forward as the purpose of the exercise, and then we're pushing towards that. And so what is the fear in regards to that? That we won't get there, that we won't make it. And then we're faced with this prospect of doing nothing and not producing anything, not accomplishing anything, of reality being unknown to us. So that's going to produce fear too. Dave, fear of uncontrollability. Excellent. Excellent. So this is the fear that presumably if we can't control things, then that's the fear that we will be swept away by chaos. And this is something I mentioned to somebody on the weekend retreat we've just had. So your heart is beating. Your heart is beating outside of your control. Now you can learn about the heartbeat. You can go to college and learn everything to do with the heart, how it works, and have a really detailed knowledge of how the heart works. But the heart was working before you entered into that education. It operates irrespective of whether you are educated as to having a knowledge of how the heart works. The heart will carry on working. So this idea that we control life is an illusion. So this is another aspect of what happens if you're willing to let go and accept unfolding reality. So you have to be able to allow for that fear to arise, but recognize that the fear is misplaced. Life is working so happily. You don't know how it's... I defy anyone to tell me how it's working. How is your consciousness is arising in each moment? How are you doing that? You don't even know. None of us do. It's all part of the wonder and the mystery of it. We can see and understand the conditioned and conditioning nature of the arising of consciousness. We can see how transient consciousness is. That's what's going to help us see through the illusion. But the fact that it's happening is just a marvel, an absolute marvel. So the more we actually rest, so we have to acknowledge the fear rather than operating out of it. We have to accept the discomfort of not being in control, and seeing that that's a false premise, that the realization of the uncontrollability is not a source of, doesn't have to be a source of fear. It can be a source of wonder. But in order to do that, you have to recognize the fear, you have to label it and see that it's not telling you the truth. So you experience the discomfort of the fear, and the fear self-liberates, because you're not resisting it, you're looking at it, you're noting it, you're seeing that it's there, you're letting it pass. Joe, fear arises because we think we have to step out of our comfort zone, when in reality there is no comfort zone to step out of. Life is perfect as it is. I mean, I wonder if somebody can actually go all the way to enlightenment just by coming back to the moment by saying, well, no, it must be perfect as it is. No, I think it needs deeper inquiry. But yeah. Or the other way of putting it is, there is only the comfort zone. There has only ever been the comfort zone of this moment. You can't step out of this moment. Whether you think it's comfortable or uncomfortable, you can't step out of it. It's impossible. So it's just about settling back and allowing things to arise and pass away. Natalie, how could we be so irresponsible as to let this flow of phenomena just go by without picking and choosing what should and should not be there? I think I mentioned it recently, but we come to meditation with all kinds of assumptions, axiomatic, unconscious assumptions about what meditation is all about, and therefore we initially we try to push and pull the mind and the meditation into being what we think it ought to be. And then bitter experience tells us that it just doesn't work. And again, paradoxically, and this is the faith will grow, because when you finally accept that your volitional attempts to control the meditation just produce tension, fear, dissatisfaction, and that you finally let go and go, all right, well, I'll just practice choiceless awareness. I will just like gently attend to the breathing process. I accept that the moment is all there is, and I will just enjoy noting what comes up. And yes, that means that you will have to note discomfort, and you will have to note fear, and you'll have to note all the hindrances. But there is this underlying confidence that emerges when you gain the experience that through doing that and the absence of resistance, it does then start, the tranquility does start to then develop. It's the absence of resistance which is the key. And so resistance is very much tied up with volition and self-view. So what you're abandoning really is self-concern. And the more you abandon self-concern, and the more you just relax into the peacefulness of what is, and the peacefulness of what is not the absence of thinking, it's not the absence of sounds, it's not the absence of painful feelings, it's not the absence of fear or worry or anything like that. The peacefulness of the moment is the absence of resistance to those things. And so as you gain more experiential knowledge that it is relaxing into the peacefulness and just noting what comes up without a sense that there's anything wrong, so that confidence deepens, the whole meditation starts to just really become very solid and unmovable in a really beautiful way. It's dynamic, but it's like you just lose interest in complaining about life and worrying about life and being annoyed by life. And so in the course of a period of meditation, it can become extraordinarily beautiful and deeply, profoundly quiet and restful. Yeah, but what the bargain you have to make is giving up that insistence that things have to conform to my expectations, to my idea of things. So what I would say is the way initially to practice before you get to vipassana is to reflect on how it is that these beautiful states of mind, including tranquility, are weaved together in the course of a meditation. So to begin with, they're weak. Those factors are weak, but they strengthen during the course of a meditation, just as long as I'm not resisting things. If I'm resisting things, if I'm wanting things to be different, then that weaving can't take place, and so the tranquility never develops. And then you create inner confidence through carefully selecting what you're going to think about. Like I say, it can be metta, it can be a recollection on the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, on peace itself, on metta, other people's good qualities, on gratitude, reasons to be grateful. or just literally aligning yourself with reality by just finding things that you like in the moment. And then you build this sense of confidence in what is unfolding, that you don't need to push to another reality, you don't have to solve anything. From that point on, it's just a question of just relaxing, watching the breath in a relaxed, receptive way, and allowing thoughts to arise, allowing sounds to happen, allowing memories to arise, whatever it is, and mindfully acknowledging what they are without the sense that there's anything wrong. There's nothing wrong. What you're doing is great. You're meditating. It's such a worthwhile, wholesome, skillful use of mind. It's a beautiful thing to do. See what that's doing? It's good that I'm doing this. There's nothing wrong. It's good that I'm doing this. This is fine as it is. Hi, Steve. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit trite, but yeah, let it be. Because its nature is to arise and pass away. And then, so what you'll find is that without having to try hard, remember what I was saying earlier about, I could be thinking about anything, I still get tranquil because there's no resistance. It's the resistance that stops the tranquility in its tracks. So over the course of a period of meditation, there is the possibility of the weaving together of all these beautiful mental factors that go to make up a beautiful state of mind. So it's thinking about the entire meditation, not this sort of micromanagement of this moment going, well, I'm not tranquil now, so everything's wrong. I'm not tranquil now, so everything's wrong. It's like allow for the fact that of course there are going to be movements. Of course the mind's going to go here, there. There are going to be mental waves. Of course there are. And you just take account of each new set of mental waves as they occur. External things happening, internal things happening. You take account, you take account, you take account. Each time gently bringing the attention back to the breath. Or even just back to the body. It doesn't have to be the breath. It could just be the body resting in the chair. And you get that lovely sense of, as the mind begins to calm, the body just seems to just become quite heavy in a nice way and quite solid in a nice way. And that's a sign that, yeah, tranquility is coming. You don't have to look for the at no stage do you have to look for tranquility. You just attend to what's going on with this sense of alignment with unfolding reality. Everything's unfolding, everything's unfolding, everything's unfolding. And the tranquility and all these other beautiful states arise quite naturally. You didn't do it. You didn't make tranquility happen. That's the beautiful thing. It's paradoxical, but it is the case. You discover that it arises by itself because the conditions are right. And what you've done is you set up the conditions correctly, meaning there's no resistance. That's what I wanted to tell you. So we're done. So that's the way to set it up. So I think I've said everything I can possibly say about this. Sue, thank goodness, thank goodness he's backing me up. I mean, there's another thing. Before you meditate, just read some Dhamma. Just read something by Alan. Honestly, it's like before doing this, I thought, well, I better check out what the Comprehensive Manual of Abhidhamma has to say about tranquility. So I opened up the pages on beautiful states of mind, and I literally started getting tranquil just reading it. I started to get beautiful states of mind arising just by opening up this book. Sometimes I've only looked at this book and I've started to get extraordinarily, because essentially it's a recollection of Dhamma in a sort of visual form, and it works. It just works. It's choosing a very efficient, very skillful object like Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and there's no resistance, and so you start getting calm. Hey, Rebecca, I miss doing these. I know we had to like curb doing things because it was like overwork, but I do like doing them. And I know for some people like uh, like Mandy in the Netherlands, like having a regular one of these is really really helpful. I think maybe we should have another lockdown. What do you think? Who's up for another lockdown so we can do these again? Only joking. Thanks for your thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Tim. Glad you could join us. Natalie, as ever, thank you. Joe, glad to be able to speak to you. Reading the written talks there at the centre helped me get tranquil between meditation sessions. Very interesting, powerful talks. Exactly. Steve, glad you could join us. Jim, lovely to hear from you. Yep, Jim, I'll be speaking to you in a couple of weeks, won't I? You're doing I can't remember when your retreat is, but... So yeah, so we've gone an hour, so I'm going to call it a day there. Lovely to speak to you. Hopefully something in that was helpful, and we'll speak again soon. So the next live stream will be a week on Wednesday when we'll be having a lecture. So yeah, see you all again soon.